Some fertilizers promise instant results, but here's the truth most gardeners never hear. A few of them are slowly killing your soil from the inside out. They might make your plants look good for a few weeks, but beneath the surface, they're destroying the microbes, compacting your soil, and making your garden dependent on chemicals just to survive. In this video, we're breaking down the 4 worst fertilizers you should never use, and 4 natural ones that will actually bring your soil back to life. Stay until the end, because the one fertilizer we'll reveal can completely transform a struggling garden in just one season. Coming in at number 4 are the so-called miracle fertilizers, those bright blue, quick-release products that promise instant growth and picture-perfect plants. On the surface, they seem magical. Your plants shoot up, the leaves turn a deep green, and flowers burst with color almost overnight. But what you don't see is the silent destruction happening beneath the soil. These fertilizers are loaded with salts and synthetic chemicals that dump massive amounts of nitrogen into the ground all at once. Sure, you get fast results, but those salts start to accumulate, killing off beneficial microbes and drying out the soil. Over time, your once healthy soil becomes hard, compacted, and nearly impossible for roots to breathe or absorb nutrients. It's like feeding your plants a steady diet of junk food. They look good for a while, but they grow weak, addicted, and fragile. Even worse, when the soil's natural balance breaks down, you're forced to use more fertilizer each season just to keep things alive. That dependency cycle is how many gardens quietly die out. And here's the part most gardeners never realize. Even fertilizers labeled organic can do serious harm if used wrong. Let's talk about one that seems natural, but can scorch your plants almost instantly. At number 3, we have one that surprises a lot of gardeners: fresh manure. It sounds completely natural, right? Straight from the farm, full of nutrients, and used for centuries. But here's the catch. When manure hasn't been properly composted, it can be one of the most dangerous things you add to your soil. Fresh manure is loaded with ammonia, salts, and harmful bacteria like E. coli and salmonella. Those high nitrogen levels can easily burn delicate roots and seedlings, leaving you with yellow, wilted plants instead of healthy green growth. And if that's not bad enough, fresh manure often carries weed seeds that will sprout everywhere, turning your once neat garden into a battle zone. The real problem is timing. Manure needs months of composting to safely break down into a form plants can use. Without that, it throws your soil out of balance, kills microbes, and can even contaminate your vegetables with dangerous pathogens. So while it might seem organic, fresh manure can quietly do more harm than good. And speaking of fertilizers that sound beneficial but secretly damage your garden, the next one is often marketed as a flower booster, but it's actually one of the biggest nutrient traps you can fall into. At number 2, we've got one that many gardeners use with good intentions: high-phosphate fertilizers, often labeled as bloom boosters. These products promise bigger flowers and stronger roots, and while that sounds great, too much phosphorus can quietly destroy the balance of your soil. Here's why. Phosphorus doesn't wash away easily. Once it builds up, it locks out other essential nutrients like iron, zinc, and manganese, leaving plants pale, weak, and stunted, even though you've been feeding them. It's one of those strange situations where you're adding nutrients but actually starving your plants at the same time. Overusing these fertilizers doesn't just hurt your garden, it harms the environment too. Excess phosphorus runs off into waterways, fueling algae blooms that choke out fish and aquatic life. And once your soil is overloaded, fixing it can take years. That's why many modern gardeners are moving away from chemical bloom boosters altogether, relying instead on natural methods to support flowering and soil life. But the next fertilizer on our list goes beyond imbalance. It's actually toxic to the ecosystem you've worked so hard to build. And taking the number 1 spot, weed and feed lawn fertilizers. These are some of the most widely used products in home gardens, but also some of the most damaging. They combine synthetic nitrogen with herbicides like 24D, designed to kill weeds while feeding your grass. It sounds efficient, but what they don't tell you is how devastating these chemicals can be for your soil's long-term health. Weed and feed products wipe out beneficial soil microbes, the tiny organisms responsible for keeping your plants healthy and disease-resistant. They also destroy earthworms, the natural tillers of your soil, and can linger for months, making it hard for new seeds or flowers to thrive. Over time, the soil becomes sterile, forcing you to rely on even more chemicals just to see green growth. But it doesn't stop there. These fertilizers can leach into groundwater, harm pollinators, and pose real risks to pets and wildlife. Many gardeners notice lush lawns at first, but dull, lifeless soil underneath. It's a short-term gain for long-term loss. If you've been using weed and feed products, the good news is there are safer, natural options that can bring your soil back to life without poisoning the ecosystem around it. So now that we've exposed the worst offenders, let's flip the script and look at the best fertilizers that actually revive your garden from the ground up. Now that we've seen what not to use, let's start rebuilding your soil the right way, and at number 4, we've got one of the most powerful natural fertilizers on Earth, compost. Compost is like a multivitamin for your garden. It's rich in organic matter, beneficial microbes, and slow-release nutrients that feed your plants steadily without ever burning them. Unlike chemical fertilizers that flood the soil all at once, compost works gradually, improving texture, moisture retention, and aeration. That means your roots can breathe, your soil stays soft and crumbly, and water actually gets absorbed instead of running off. What makes compost so effective is that it supports life in your soil. Earthworms, fungi, and bacteria all thrive in it, creating a self-sustaining system that keeps your garden fertile for years. And the best part? You can make it for free from kitchen scraps, fallen leaves, and garden clippings. If you don't have time to make your own, store-bought compost or local composting programs work just as well. Either way, you're not just feeding plants, you're rebuilding the living ecosystem that keeps your soil healthy. But if you want to take it a step further, there's another organic fertilizer that's so potent, gardeners call it black gold. At number 3, we have what many gardeners call black gold, worm castings. This stuff might not look like much, but it's one of the most nutrient-dense, plant-friendly fertilizers you can possibly use. Worm castings are the natural byproduct of earthworms digesting organic matter. As they break down compost, leaves, and decaying roots, they produce tiny pellets rich in beneficial bacteria, humus, and trace minerals. When added to your soil, those castings release nutrients slowly, so your plants get a consistent food source without the risk of burning roots or shocking seedlings. But the real magic of worm castings goes deeper. They help improve soil structure, increase water retention, and boost plant immunity against pests and diseases. Many gardeners notice stronger root growth, greener leaves, and better yields, all from just a few handfuls mixed into the soil or steeped into worm tea for watering. It's gentle, powerful, and completely natural, a perfect alternative to chemical fertilizers. And if you're serious about reviving tired or compacted soil, the next fertilizer on our list can take things to an entirely new level. It doesn't just feed your plants, it strengthens them from within. At number 2, we have an incredible natural booster that many gardeners overlook, seaweed or kelp fertilizer. It's not just rich in minerals, it's loaded with natural growth hormones and trace elements that most synthetic fertilizers completely miss. Seaweed helps plants develop stronger roots, thicker stems, and greater resistance to stress, whether that's drought, heat, or transplant shock. It also improves soil structure by feeding beneficial microorganisms that, in turn, make nutrients more available to your plants. Think of it as giving your garden a natural immunity boost. What's amazing about seaweed fertilizers is how gentle yet effective they are. They won't burn your plants. They work in almost any soil type, and they even improve flavor and color in fruits and vegetables. You can use them as a liquid feed or mix them into the soil, and the results are often visible within days. Plus, they're completely sustainable, harvested from renewable marine plants rather than mined or manufactured chemicals. It's an eco-friendly way to get lush, vibrant growth without damaging the planet. But if you really want to bring your soil back to life, the final fertilizer on this list is the true game changer. It's alive, it's powerful, and it can transform even the most exhausted garden soil in record time. And finally, taking the number 1 spot, compost tea or microbial inoculants, the living fertilizers that can completely transform your soil from the ground up. Unlike traditional fertilizers that just add nutrients, these actually bring your soil back to life. Compost tea is made by steeping high-quality compost in water, allowing beneficial bacteria, fungi, and microbes to multiply. When you pour that tea over your soil or spray it on leaves, you're not just feeding your plants. You're seeding an entire microscopic ecosystem that protects roots, breaks down nutrients faster, and defends against disease. Microbial inoculants work in a similar way, adding colonies of living microorganisms that rebuild the biological foundation of your garden. Over time, these microbes form symbiotic relationships with your plants, helping them absorb nutrients more efficiently and grow stronger without relying on chemicals. Gardeners who switch to compost tea often see incredible changes: soil that smells rich and earthy again, plants that stay green longer, and gardens that bounce back even after harsh weather. It's the closest thing to giving your soil a second chance, and the best part, it's simple. You can brew compost tea at home using basic tools, or buy ready-made versions from your local garden center. Either way, this natural elixir can restore the balance your soil has been craving. So here's the big takeaway: fertilizers can either feed life or destroy it. The quick-fix chemicals may look tempting, but they come with a cost: dead soil, weaker plants, and long-term dependency. The natural options, compost, worm castings, seaweed, and compost tea do the opposite. They build healthy soil that feeds itself, season after season. If you want a thriving garden, stop treating soil like dirt, treat it like a living ecosystem. When your soil is alive, your plants don't just grow, they thrive. You'll see richer colors, stronger roots, and better harvests without ever needing a synthetic chemical again. So, which fertilizer shocked you the most today? Let me know in the comments, and if you learned something new, don't forget to like this video, subscribe, and turn on notifications so you never miss a gardening secret, because when you take care of your soil, it always takes care of you.